America's Oregon state had a dense forest known as Whispering Forest. During the day, the forest looked completely normal, but after sunset, everything changed. The nearby villagers said that after dark, strange voices came from inside the forest, as if someone was standing between the trees and slowly calling someone's name. Many people claimed that they saw a figure walking deep inside the forest, but whenever they looked back, there was nothing except darkness and empty trees. For years, this forest remained a mystery. 28-year-old Michael Carter was a documentary maker who searched for the truth behind mysterious places in America. He was interested in finding the real reason behind stories that people ignored as simple, scary legends. When he heard about Whispering Forest, he decided to go there himself and record everything with his camera. His friend Emily joined him, who handled the camera and audio recordings. They reached the edge of the forest in the evening. There was an old wooden sign standing there that said, "Enter at your own risk." Michael turned on his camera and said, "Today we are entering the forest where people have reported strange voices and missing cases for many years. Tonight we will find out what the truth really is." Emily looked around and said, "This place feels strange. A forest this big should have some sounds, but there is nothing here." They slowly walked deeper into the forest. As they moved forward, the trees became thicker and darker. After some distance, they noticed old footprints on the ground. Emily pointed the camera down and said, "Michael, these footprints don't look old. Someone is still coming here." Michael used his flashlight and checked the ground. The soil was wet and the footprints were clearly visible. They started following the footprints deeper into the forest. Suddenly, a quiet voice was recorded on their audio device. "Michael." Both of them stopped. Emily asked nervously, "Did you say my name?" Michael replied, "No." They played the recording again. This time the voice was clearer. "Michael, go back." Their faces changed because the voice sounded very close, but nobody was around them. Suddenly they heard the sound of someone stepping on dry leaves inside the forest. The sound slowly moved toward them. Emily said, "We should leave this place." But at that moment, they saw an old wooden house between the trees. The house was not marked on any map. Michael said, "Maybe the secret of this forest is hidden inside this house." They slowly walked toward it. The door was already slightly open. When Michael pushed the door, a cold wind touched their faces. Inside the house, many old pictures were hanging on the walls. Michael pointed his flashlight upward and noticed that the pictures showed the same people who had disappeared in the forest years ago. Emily picked up one picture and her hands started shaking, because in that picture, Michael himself was standing there. The picture looked very old. Michael stepped back in shock. He said, "How is this possible? I have never been here before." Suddenly, the old radio in the room turned on by itself. A slow voice came from it. "You always come back, Michael." Suddenly, the door of the house slammed shut. Outside, hundreds of whispering voices started coming from the forest. Emily looked through the window and stepped back in fear, because many figures were standing between the trees, but their faces could not be seen clearly. Michael realized that this forest was not just a scary story. A much older and more dangerous secret was hidden here. Then they heard footsteps coming from the upper floor of the house. A voice slowly whispered, "Michael, you want to know the truth, don't you? Then come upstairs." The voice slowly echoed through the old house, "Michael, you want to know the truth, don't you? Then come upstairs." Michael and Emily stood silently near the locked door. The footsteps from the upper floor became louder with every passing second. Emily whispered, "Michael, something is wrong. We should not go up there." But Michael knew that whatever was hiding in this house was connected to him. He slowly moved toward the stairs, holding his flashlight tightly. Each step made a loud cracking sound because the wooden stairs were extremely old. As they reached the second floor, they found a long, dark hallway with several closed doors. The walls were covered with old photographs, and every picture showed people standing inside the same forest. Suddenly, Michael noticed something strange. In every picture, there was the same shadow standing behind the people. Emily pointed at one photo and said, "Michael, look at this." The picture showed a group of people near the forest, but one person was completely blurred. Behind the picture, there was a date written, 1998. Michael remembered that year because it was the year when his parents disappeared for a few days and never talked about what happened. Suddenly, one of the doors at the end of the hallway slowly opened by itself. A cold wind came from inside the room. Michael and Emily entered carefully. Inside the room, there was an old wooden table with hundreds of documents scattered on it. Michael picked up one file and saw his own name written on it. The file contained information about his childhood, his family, and even details about events that nobody should know. Emily opened another file and found names of missing people from the forest. Then they discovered something terrifying. All the missing people had one thing in common. Before disappearing, they had heard the same whispering voice calling their names. Michael suddenly heard a voice behind him. "Because the forest chooses people." He turned around quickly, but nobody was there. The room became colder, and the old mirror on the wall started showing something different. In the mirror, Michael saw himself standing alone, but Emily was missing. He immediately turned back, and Emily was still standing beside him. She looked scared and asked, "What happened?" Michael pointed toward the mirror, but the image had already changed. Now the mirror showed a little boy standing in the corner of the room. The boy looked exactly like Michael when he was young. The child slowly raised his hand and pointed toward a hidden door behind the bookshelf. Michael moved the bookshelf aside and discovered a secret passage leading underground. The passage was dark and filled with old belongings. There were old cameras, clothes, and personal items of the people who disappeared. Emily found an old video camera lying on a table. She pressed the play button. The video showed a man standing inside the forest. Michael recognized the man immediately. It was his father. His father looked terrified and said, "If someone finds this recording, it means the forest has started again. The whispering is not from ghosts. Something lives here, something that controls people's minds." Suddenly, the video stopped. The battery was completely dead. Michael realized his father had discovered the truth years ago but failed to escape. Then they heard a noise behind them. Someone was walking inside the secret passage. Slow footsteps were coming closer. Emily grabbed Michael's arm. "We need to leave now." But before they could move, a figure appeared at the end of the passage. It was a man wearing old clothes covered with dirt. His face was pale and his eyes looked empty. He looked at Michael and said, "You finally came back to finish what your father started." Michael asked, "Who are you?" The man smiled and replied, "I am the last person who survived this forest." He revealed that years ago, many people came to the forest searching for answers, but the forest trapped them by using their biggest fears against them. Michael realized the whispers were not just sounds. They were memories of everyone who disappeared. Suddenly, the entire house started shaking. The walls cracked and the whispering voices became louder. The man shouted, "You have to find the source before the forest takes you too." Michael looked deeper into the underground tunnel and saw a strange glowing light coming from the darkness. He knew the biggest secret of Whispering Forest was waiting there. but he also knew that once he entered that place, there might be no way back. The Whispering Forest Mystery. Michael and Emily slowly walked toward the strange light deep inside the underground tunnel. The whispering voices became louder, calling their names again and again. When they reached the end of the tunnel, they found an old room hidden beneath the forest. In the center of the room, there was a strange tree growing through the ground, and around it were hundreds of old objects belonging to the missing people. Michael realized that the forest was not haunted by ghosts, but something unknown was using people's fears to trap them. Suddenly, the shadow behind them appeared again. The old survivor said, "The forest feeds on fear. If you are afraid, it becomes stronger." Michael understood that the only way to escape was to stop believing in the whispers. He turned toward the darkness and said, "You cannot control us anymore." At that moment, the voices became weaker and the shadow started disappearing. The hidden room began collapsing, and Michael and Emily quickly ran back through the tunnel. When they reached outside, the sun was rising. The forest became silent for the first time in many years. Later, the authorities discovered the hidden place and found evidence of all the missing cases. The truth about Whispering Forest finally came out. Michael completed his documentary and showed the world what was really hidden inside the forest. But even after everything ended, sometimes when he walked near a forest, he could still hear a faint whisper in the wind calling his name. Because some mysteries disappear, but some remain forever. The end.